long time ago. I just thought of something kind of funny. So
Uh-oh.
the white sleeves, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
so you know how we have the cone shirts coming out, right?
Yep.
Yeah, those were called the cone sleeves, right? What else is in the shape of a cone?
Mm.
The
Mm.
white sleeves. You get it, Jeff?
Oh.
Oh, it's like if we wear the white sleeves on our head. Well, we're already having issues with that whole process over here because we made a shirt. We're not on the air yet, right?
We are now on the internet.
Oh, never mind. Talk about this some other time.
We'll talk about it another day. Oh God.
Anyway, how's your jiu-jitsu going? And you're lifting and stuff.
Ah, man, it's great. Jiu-jitsu is it's I never get tired of it. I really, 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 really hope that I don't ever get tired of it. But it's awesome. You know, it's funny. Tom, who's the guy who designs a bunch of stuff here,
Mm-hmm.
he just started jiu-jitsu recently, and he was saying something that was really, really kind of. I mean, I agreed with it too in a way. He was saying that he lifts a lot, right? But when he goes in on the weekends and he does jujitsu on Saturday and Sunday, he says after every single session, he literally just can't be stressed. Like he'll even think of stressful things, but he just feels so just like he's released so much. He just can't be stressed about it. And like that's how I feel too. Literally after every single
Worked.
yeah, you just feel worked. You feel good. And you just like can't stress about things. It's really difficult for me to stress about things after doing jujitsu. Even when I tire myself out in the gym and I have a really good workout, it's somewhat of the same feeling, but it's just not as, I guess, taxing that it like makes me feel that way. I still feel good. Don't get me wrong. I still love it, but it's just different.
I went to CSA a couple days ago, Combat Sports Academy, where where slingshot record breakers will be held once again in November, and Kieran Fitzgibbons, the owner of the gym, he's the guy who trains all the fighters. He's been doing this stuff for like 30 years. Really, really highly experienced, highly skilled. And he's working with Gaston. I forget Gaston's last name, but he's the Dream Killer on Instagram.
The dream killer.
The most deadliest elbow, maybe in all of MMA, maybe behind Bones Jones. I don't know. But like this guy knocks people out. In a bad way. Like when people get hit by this, you're like, like it's just one of those knockouts where you're like, I like the sport, but I really didn't like seeing that. Like that was like a couple steps too far. You
Please
know?
get up.
Yeah, Gaston is a real beast. But to your point, see that thing is just it's so precise.
Oh my God.
Man, he's an animal. He does a great job of like staying in shape and keeping his conditioning. We'll have him on the podcast soon. He's a great guy. But Gaston, you know, was training, and he wasn't frustrated or anything, but he's working on these punches and these kicks, and Kieran was getting killed by him. I mean, Kieran was head to toe in gear, protective gear, to allow Gaston to kind of work on these combinations. He had his ribs all padded up, and then he had holding the pads in his hands and everything. But Gaston kept doing these kind of double body shots, and Kieran has to prep himself for every shot, especially from someone so highly skilled that can kick and punch and elbow like this. You can't just hold pads for somebody that's really highly skilled. Oh. Shit. Yeah, we're watching video right now, and we're just cringing at how amazing these elbows are. It's really, really ridiculous. But Kieran is he's got a kind of, it's almost like doing like a rep. Like there's a certain breath involved in it. There's a certain way that you handle it. And there's also a certain way to kind of absorb somebody's punch or absorb somebody's kick, especially when you're holding pads for somebody. You'll see some shots of it here. And you can see, so Kieran's very braced for every shot, especially when it comes to the gut. He's got plenty of pads. You see there, he's getting pissed.
Like, oh,
That was the liver, I think.
Yeah, he just told him. He's like, stop that, you fucking asshole. You know, he's telling him. And they go pretty hard. You know, they go hard in these training sessions. But what Kieran did at one point is Kieran just put his hands to the side. And he's like, fucking go for it then. He's like, just do it. He's like, just get it out of your system. He's like, if you feel frustrated, he's like, just go for it. And Gaston actually finally stopped after he did like 5 or 6. But kind of to your point, it's like he got whatever that thing that was in there, whatever that like angst or whatever that thing was that was bugging him, whatever that thing was, he got it out. And I think it's cool. Like if you can get that out in lifting, or if you can get that out through doing jiu-jitsu, then maybe you don't have to like walk around being so anxious about shit all the time.
Seriously, no,
And
like
wear your shit out.
yeah, and I don't want anyone to get a mixed message or anything. Like even after I lift, I feel way less stress. I just feel good. And it's not like when I go into jiu-jitsu, I'm getting rage out on people and like yeah, kicking people's asses for that reason. But you just feel like a weight, just like I can't even describe it. You feel a weight lifted, and it's just nice.
Oh,
So
it's so much energy,
mhm.
right? So much energy poured into it. How does that feel in comparison to lifting? To having a really good, let's say, powerlifting session and being powerlifting prep versus having a good jiu-jitsu practice and getting ready for worlds.
I think maybe the difference could just be that it's a martial art, and I'm physically working against another individual. I think maybe that might be the mental side of it,
Not
because
just you and the weight.
not just me and the weight, because like I really like after a session of jiu-jitsu, and I've sparred with like 8 or 9 different people, right? And I've done so many different things in terms of submissions, or maybe I got submitted. It doesn't matter. I just I feel more accomplished after that in that session, just because of like the breadth of what was done. And maybe I worked on a lot of new techniques and stuff. Some things worked, some things didn't. But I just think since there's just so much there, that's maybe another reason. But primarily, I think it's just the energy that's expended. Like after a hard powerlifting session or hard lifting session, I don't expend as much total energy. I don't burn as many calories versus a 90-minute session of jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu, you think, is twice as much, 4 times as much? Like if you had to just take a wild guess?
Versus the lifting sessions, I do probably four or 5 times as much.
So in the lifting, it's like you have to kind of be ready for each rep and each set, right?
Mhm.
There's really nothing happening in between.
Yeah.
And that's not the case with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, no. Like when you're sparring, like you're sparring the whole thing. There might be moments in the sparring session where like you're in a control position, so you're a little bit more still, but you're never perfectly stopped. You always maybe trying to hold your weight so you can keep this person down. There's always some type of movement going on.
A lot harder than sitting on a bench in between sets.
Yeah, a lot harder than that. And again, if you don't do jiu-jitsu, I don't want this to don't take this as like I'm thinking jiu-jitsu is better or anything. But it has different energy requirements, just like CrossFit, in those WODs. Like God, they're moving the whole time. They're doing burpees, then they're doing the erg machine, the rowing machine, and they're just doing this over and over. Then they're going for a freaking run. Like that's just way more energy expended, So like in essence, it's like that much. But again, I think the feeling of literally just going against an opponent, right? It's different, and we've spoken about this a little bit in the past. There's a mental side of it to where like that you're in a combative situation with another person, and let's say you submitted them a few times, or you were submitted a few times, right? That feeling of like if they didn't stop with my tap, they could have either broken my limb or killed me, because they could have just not stopped the choke, and I wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. Because when you tap, like you have no escape.
You're
I can't escape this.
I'm stuck. This is my only way out.
Yep.
Don't kill me.
Don't kill me, or don't tear my knee or break my arm or wreck me. Don't do that, right? So you are submitting, or you're putting another individual in that situation, and you've bettered them in that situation. There's something mentally to that really, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just, there's a feeling of, I don't know, accomplishment, or a feeling of just sadness when you do get submitted a lot. That just makes you really just want to go back and continue to get better and learn more.
Is it like disappointment? Like you're kind of disappointed? Like I'm sure at your level now, right? You're a purple belt, correct?
Purple belt, yeah.
So at your level now, I'm sure it would just be like pure, almost disappointment. Like, how did I end up? Like that was like, how did I end up in that?
Yeah, yesterday, my boy Kaleo got me in a knee bar when we were rolling. And he's really good at doing like leg stuff, but he got me in a knee bar. I after that got him in an omoplata, but when he got me in that knee bar and I tapped, I was a little bit disappointed, because I was just like, damn. How to end up in this situation? It doesn't feel good, because like I don't like to have to submit, but sometimes you just do. But it's not a feeling of like, at least nowadays, it's no longer anger or anything. Initially, when I first started and I'd get tapped all the time, first off, you're getting tapped so much that you're pretty quick to like get past the point of being angry about it. Like it's just going to happen to you. But now it's just like, shoot, okay, that sucks. I just got to figure out a solution to that though. But it still doesn't feel good. Like you're still not happy that you had to tap to this person, right? But
You think the energy requirement is through the roof because it's like, I don't know if you played chess much. I haven't played much chess, but there's so much strategy involved on top of it being physical. On top of like, oh shit, he's going for a knee bar. Oh shit, now like, and it just the second he goes for the knee bar and the second that you kind of quote unquote block it or counter it, now he's going for something else, and like you're on the defense and you're trying to figure out how to get back on the offense, and your mind must be going crazy the whole time.
You know,
must be racing.
Yeah, no, oddly enough, though, like initially, I think there are stages, especially when you're doing new or trying a new game in your jiu-jitsu, trying a different, like, let's say there's a position called the De La Hiva, and you've never done the De La Hiva before. When you're first starting to implement that in your game, your mind will be racing. You'll be thinking a lot about it. But then there comes a point where you've done it so much that your body just moves and your body just counters because you've done something so much. With the positions that I'm really used to working with, I don't have to think as much because when he does something, my body automatically will do this, and I'll just do this just because like I know this well enough, not like I've mastered it, but I've become proficient enough where I don't have to think about it anymore. My body will move on its own to do that. But when it does come to like doing something new or like trying to play a game that I haven't done before, then it will be like I'll be in a position and my mind will be like, okay, so what should I try grabbing here? Okay, that doesn't work. Try this instead. So that'll be there until I become proficient enough at it where I don't have to think anymore.
I remember seeing Royce Gracie, in the first couple UFCs, and I mentioned this a bunch of times, but like other people didn't know what was happening. They didn't know Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and it was like a big surprise when he got people and stuff, and no one could tell what was happening. But how calm he was, on his back with somebody else on top of him, trying to kick his ass, trying to make him tap, trying to choke him out, trying to knock him out. He was so calm, and I remember thinking how weird it was. Royce, he just like wouldn't even really look at the guy at all. Like he would just kind of look off to the side and seemed almost like he was like distracted or like in his own world, or like, did he see like a cute girl in the front row, or like what's he doing? And the announcer was like, this is jiu-jitsu at its finest. He might look like he's not paying attention, but he knows exactly what the other guy's doing. He knows where the other guy's feet are right now. He knows where the other guy's hips are positioned. He knows where both the hands are. He's fully aware just because the bodies are in contact with each other. And he's like, you'll notice, if the guy, moves his hand this way, then he's going to do that. If the guy moves his leg that way, he's going to do that. So he had like, he's just strategizing. He's down there strategizing, but he looks like he could care less about what the hell's happening.
That's the aspect of like looking away that you just mentioned. I never really thought about that really much, but there's sometimes when I'm rolling, or I'll see Cassio do this, or I'll see other people do this. You're not really even looking at your opponent. You're just kind of looking just somewhere off, and your hands are just doing stuff. Like sometimes, I don't know why, but it just feels necessary at that point to feel it out rather than looking at your opponent and stuff. I don't even know why, but that does sometimes happen. And that is in and of itself really really cool.
Could be kind of stressing you. So like, let's, I would be new. I would be, I'd be a novice. I'd get destroyed by everybody there pretty much. Right. So I'm on my back. And if I'm not comfortable with what you're going to be doing to me or trying to do to me, then I'm going to want to like lean up and flex my neck and try to see what you're doing. Right. And it's like, well, how long you do that for?
Yeah.
If you even do that for a minute, your ass is going to be tired.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to get, choked out or getting some other comp. This is amazing watching these old UFCs where Chemo almost threw, or Royce and Chemo almost went right out of the cage.
Yo.
What I love watching about Royce Gracie, though, too, is like a lot of these guys never get credit for being strong. Royce Gracie is strong. I mean, I can't recall any UFCs where ever like knocked anybody out or anything, but that's just another different level of strength. There's different aspects. There's different levels of strength, and the mobility and the way he was able just to kind of cling on to people and like just not let him go.
Yeah, he's like a bear.
I could watch him all day. I used to be so fascinated. Even when he had those fights, he had some fights that went like 28, 30 minutes. It's like everyone was so bored by him, but I was like, no, whatever this is cool. I I don't know what he's doing, but this is neat. When he went against Ken Shamrock and stuff like that. Really, really cool fights. And Hoist got beat up pretty good too, which no one ever saw before. Nice
headbutt him.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that I find that I think's like honestly that's helped my jiu-jitsu, and we talked about this too. That's helped my lifting too. Whenever I roll with people nowadays, like I'll get a lot of comments of people saying, "Dude, you look so uninterested," or like you look like you're bored, or you look like But it's just because first off, I'm breathing through my nose. I'm just like staying calm. Like my face is just really, really calm, and that's helped out a lot. And I noticed that a lot with like Hoist or whatever. Like in his fights, his face is usually just pretty chill. There's
Yeah.
something to that. But
And that's what I noticed the other day when I was watching Gaston. He's prepping for a fight, I think maybe like this weekend.
Mhm.
He was so calm. And then I asked, like, there was no, like, he's making some noise because he's like hitting the pads and stuff. But he also was like pretty calm with that for how hard he's throwing. He's not making these crazy noises. He's not there like looking for attention. He's not mad. He's not. And so I asked him, this was probably about 5:30 p.m. or so. So he probably already been there all day. Like these guys, they don't leave the gym.
yeah,
And if they do leave the gym, it's to get a massage or to get some more food, or it's an active release therapy session. It's something for fighting. They have these 12, 14-hour days that are all devoted towards fighting. And I'm watching him kick and punch, and he's just, no emotion, no real grit. He's just throwing these violent shots. And then I asked him, I was like, what's it like at this point? You have a fight coming up this weekend, and like, he's like, the training's done. I feel really good about my training. I did the best I could. The fight's just a fight. He's like, I'll win some of them. I was like, you're not really anxious, or he goes, I'm, a little anxious and excited to get in the ring again, because that's always fun. That's what I love to do.
Mhm.
But he's like, I feel really good. I feel confident. I'm not really worried about anything. I was like, man, that must be a nice place to be, because he's had so many fights under his belt. Most time, what if, you're in school when you're a kid and you kind of get that old school, see you after school type thing, right? And then these kids like face off. I mean, you get really nervous when there's confrontation, right?
Yeah.
And now like this guy, like he just doesn't care. He's prepared for it, right?
It's just the reps of it's getting the reps in of competition. Just like, probably when you first started powerlifting and you knew you were going to go to the gym and do some heavy squats or whatever, it would really make it be nerve-wracking a little bit, because you're like, I'm about to get into this heavy weight and it's going to be tough. But after you do that, like you get so used to doing that over time that it's not as bad. It's the same thing with like my first jiu-jitsu competition. I was super nervous, but I was still nervous before my last few ones, but it was a different type of nervousness because I've done so many competitions that I just didn't feel as anxious about it, so.
You think the nerves impacted you negatively at all? Like did you really feel like a crazy amount of nerves like in your gut? Or were you like shaky?
I wasn't shaky, but I felt some stuff in my gut until I stepped on the mat. So it was literally like I was feeling it, and I was just like doing the best I could just to stay chill like I usually do. But then once I stepped on the mat, it was just like things were good. Like I wasn't feeling that anymore. And I don't know what it is to that. But I never looked at, like I said, I never look at nerves even nowadays. I don't look at it negatively. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's more so an excitement that you're about to compete. So it's not like, I knew I put in all the work I needed to put in. I trained as much as I could. I did everything I needed to do to be as ready as possible. So it wasn't nervousness of not being ready. It was more so like, damn, it's here. It's about to happen. Let's get it. Like it was an excitement for that.
I like that.
I think that's a good thing.
I like that. I think you can kind of lean into that. You feel, I've had that before where I've had some real nerves about a contest or something. And then I try to like suppress it. I tried to be like, no, like the contest is like in a week, like just don't even worry about it. And then what I learned over a period of time is like, just like receive it, just accept it. Like it's there, and be like, hell yeah. Like this is awesome. This opportunity is going to be so cool. And yeah, like it's going to be stressful, but this is what you signed up for, and you're doing so much preparation for it. There's no other option. Like it's going to work out great. You've done everything that you could, and you know, part of the reason why you play the game in the first place is because it is a roll of dice. You don't know what each day looks like. You don't know how you're going to show up, and in your case, you don't know how the other guy is going to show up. But you try to show up the best you possibly can, and you should feel good about that part of it. And when those nerves hit, just try to lean into them a little bit. But sometimes you can have nerves that are like, they can really crush you. Like if you're talking in front of people, and then you are nervous, and once you start to talk, you recognize how nervous that you sound, and then you're in a lot of trouble, and you're like, oh my God. You know, you're like, this is not going well. I've had some of that with speaking engagements before because I've done a lot of them, but I've ironed that out. You know, I'm usually pretty good. But there would still be scenarios that would still scare me. Like if I got a call from the Today Show to be on there or something like that, that'd be new.
Yeah.
So I would be like flat out, not just have nerves, I'd be scared, flat out scared. However, I think that I have enough experience to where I'd be able to kind of work through some things that make sense enough for me to be able to make it through. And I would probably look back and be like, God damn it, I could do so much better than that. I need another shot, you know?
Yeah.
But I've also experienced that in professional wrestling, and that actually happened to me a few times. You know, getting in the ring in front of a few thousand people is a really, really wild experience. And what happened was, and luckily I was in a tag team match because a tag team match gives you more rest. But I was in the opening, they call it a spot. I was in the opening spot. The opening spot probably just took about, I don't know, 90 seconds. 90 seconds, not very long, you know, but it depends on what you're doing. Hit a heavy bag for 90 seconds pretty hard. You're going to be breathing pretty hard, right? And so that's a little bit like wrestling, especially when something's going at a fast pace. But what happened was I got so nervous and I got so overwhelmed that this energy dump, like this nervousness, it made me feel cold. And then like my legs weren't working. Like I was trying to like run the ropes. I was trying to do things. And I felt like I had a backpack that weighed 50 pounds on my back.
Wow.
And I never experienced anything like that before. So I got through all the moves that I got through. And there was definitely a couple in there that were more sloppy than what I was used to performing. And then once I got done with that, and I actually tag teamed it with my brother, which was pretty cool. Once I got outside the ring, I was like, you need to breathe. And so I started to like breathe. And even the ref came over. He's like, dude, breathe. He's like, this is fun, right? He's like, this is fun, right? Like he's talking, they talk and they like wave their finger at you, make it look like on TV that they're yelling at you or something. But he's like, this is fun, right? And I'm like, you're right, it's fun, okay. And then I was fine, but holy shit, that hit me like a ton of bricks.
That's one thing. Like whenever you get in some of these situations, and let's say it's like your first time, you forget to breathe. Like you forget to actually breathe. Like my first jiu-jitsu competition, like after my match, I was holding my breath so much. Like, why am I so lightheaded right now? It's because I wasn't breathing. That's so crazy that like the most simple thing is what you forget to do.
You feel like you're gonna die.
Yeah.
When you're learning new technique, because you talked in the past about like visualizing a lot of stuff. Do you have any time to do that like day of, or is that something you kind of take with you like once you leave the school and you start like visualizing like, oh shit, this is where I didn't get it, or this is where he got me, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I usually try and bring my camera with me so I can like see that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I will think about that type of stuff later to see like how maybe we got there. Usually after the roll, though, I know how we got there because I ask them like, okay, how'd you do that, or like what allowed you to get this? And usually they're good enough to be able to explain to me what happened.
Yeah.
So usually I'll just talk about it right then and there. But I mean, in terms of the visualization thing, like it helps a lot. Like especially if I watch something on YouTube and I want to do it, if I can visualize that a little bit, oh man, once I go in and hit it, it's just like it's there. So that I do find that like that's crazy how beneficial that is for this. And like I wonder because like I've never done public speaking like you have or anything in front of crowds, but when I've seen like you and Stan do that, like do you yourself in the way that you go about it, do you have like, you don't have like a script or anything, you're just going with like what you feel needs to be put forward, right? But I guess how would someone go about doing that successfully on their first try? Let's put it that way, because I feel like that is nerve-wracking.
I think maybe a couple things on that would be number one, just realize you're different than other people. You're probably not going to do the same thing that I do. You're probably not going to do the same thing that Stan does. Stan and I are very different, very, very different. Stan is meticulous with detail, and he's meticulous with organization. Stan does a lot of practice. He practices a lot of the stuff that he says when he does those rants. Those are rehearsed. Stan has a very powerful and strong memory, and it's probably from how meticulous he is with organizing things that he's developed it over the years. So he could recite a study without without having any trouble at all. Whereas for myself, it's important for me to understand that that's not a strength for me. And even if I rehearsed it, it wouldn't be in my best interest to spend time there because it's not where I'm strong. I might be stronger with a story. I might be stronger with sharing, starting things out with a quote or starting things out with like a fact and then leading people places. I found that, while doing public speaking for a long time, it's always good to start out with a strong point of interest. Like what's something. Now, the people are coming here because they already know who I am. Mm-hmm. So that's another factor. Now, if you're like, if you're getting on a stage and you're kind of in competition, which it turns into a competition, and there's other speakers, then you might have to deliver the message a lot differently. But I would say some of the main things to think about would be, are you a person that's pretty organized and can you remember things pretty well? Because if you're of that nature, then that would be a great place to start. You can kind of write out almost like a script and have some ideas and have some plans on what it is you want to execute. What's the message that I want to get across? And for someone like yourself, it would just be like if you're like, oh man, I don't know if I can talk like Stan, or I don't know if I can talk like Mark. And then what's great is you don't have to. You talk kind of like from your heart, and you talk. And what I mean by from the heart is like, it's stuff that you're actually attached to on an emotional level. Could be an experience you had when you were young, how you played soccer and you realized quickly that, if you were going to play any sport that you need to be stronger and then you lifted or whatever the story is, right? It's a story that you share. And then kind of in addition to that would be, just really trying to lean into, where you're strong, the message that you want to get across. For myself, it's usually like maybe a little bit more motivational. I'll try to share stories, and Stan is going to be, sitting in a lot of fact and giving you. He did a presentation,
PowerPoints.
Yeah, he did a full on presentation. I think what gets to be hard about public speaking is that everyone's trying to have a performance, and it shouldn't be a performance. It should be more of a conversation.
Yeah.
I would say that some of the most successful ones I've done have kind of started out with like a quote or like a fact. So, I mean, let me try to think of a hypothetical real quick. So what if you started out a seminar like this on nutrition? Said 6 out of 7 people are successful with their diets. 6 out of 7 people have been shown in many studies have been shown to be able to lose 20 pounds or more. Why is America still fat? And then you can kind of start in, on that and say, well, 95% of the people have been shown to not be able to hold on to that. It's not manageable. So they did a routine that they were able to do for a little period of time. And then you can make sense of it all. Right off the bat, you can make some really good sense of it all and say, okay, you saw in these examples that these people were able to lose 20 pounds, but they gained it back very quickly. So we could all agree, right? Everyone on the same page, we can all agree that it's going to take some consistency. And if we're talking about consistency, now we need to talk about something that is sustainable for you to follow, right?
Yeah.
And then you can kind of lead in on that. Now there's a bunch of people there going, God damn it, I lost 20 pounds 3 times. And I gained it back and then some every time, right?
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Those little kind of tricks, I think, would be good for people to follow. But even again, referencing back to yourself would be, you stick to where you're strong. You talk about jiu-jitsu, you talk about bodybuilding, you talk about powerlifting. You're not mentioning anything that you haven't tried or done.
Yeah.
You talk about your experiences with your clients. I got this one guy out in Colorado, gained 50 pounds on his deadlift, and all we had him do was weighted back extensions or whatever that experience is. And now it's like, well, that's not necessarily a fact. It's not necessarily a thing where, but it's not anything anybody can debate. It's not a study with 1,000 people, but that's this experience for this one guy. And maybe you tried it and worked well for you and it worked for some other clients. Like, well, now you really got some dialogue that's really powerful.
Yeah, I call it hitting base hits. So like
hitting base.
Yeah, because like even when I pick up a camera to go do a photo shoot, I tense up, I get nervous, and it shows because like halfway through the photo shoot, that's when the pictures get really good because I'm opening up, I'm loose. But I say like, okay, let's just hit some base hits right now. Like, let's get on base, meaning let's get some simple shots, and then eventually, now we got runners on the field. Let's hit a home run right now. So like, if you come out the gate and at a speaking engagement, you're trying to get the whole crowd to laugh. Like, good luck, dude. Unless you're Joe Rogan, right? Like that's probably not the route you should be taking.
You might know the answer to this question, Andrew. How does that same thought process relate to the Diaz brothers and how they fight? I think you know.
I mean, I could take a wild guess.
Take a wild guess.
Are you just talking about like putting the pressure on? Like they don't necessarily go for a knockout punch every single time, but they're gonna jab you nonstop.
I knew you knew the answer. God damn it, Andrew.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because even though this like 1-2 punch, you have to brace for it every single time
and over and over. It's like whatever they can land, they're just gonna take.
Yeah.
And you're like, that ain't doing shit to me, but after a while, it will.
25 minutes of that and you can't breathe.
And they're calm and they're snapping these punches and you're like, these are shit. This guy's so weak. Like, what is he even trying to do? But he keeps hitting you in the arm and then you can't throw good punches yourself.
Yeah.
He keeps hitting you in the side and you're like, I think at first you're just annoyed because he's peppering you with shots and none of them hurt. And you're like, this guy's a clown. Like, I'm going to throw him on his head. But he just keeps doing it and he keeps doing it. And neither one of them get tired.
Nope.
The Diaz brothers are a bunch of savages.
Damn.
Yeah. So like imagine just trying to brace for that hit and then still trying to breathe to get your hit. Like you just, you can't. And it just does not stop.
So this is really cool what you brought up because this brings up our next topic about nutrition that we wanted to focus in on for today. And it's like, what could you find to where somebody asks you about your diet? Somebody says, hey, dude, like what have you been doing different? Because you look awesome, or I got a question, man. What do you do for diet? Because whatever you're doing looks like it's working, right? And what if you were able to tell the person, say, actually, you know what, you maybe describe the diet a little bit. The next question from the person probably is going to be something like, is that really hard to follow? Because they're going to really wonder, like, man, Nsima, you fast 18 hours on a lot of days, 16 on some other days, and you mainly just eat later in the day, and that sounds hard, right? So you want something that you can follow. You want something that you can do, and so that's probably why people ask that question. But like in your case, how hard is your diet?
It's not hard. Like, I don't even look at it as a diet anymore. You know how everyone's like, oh, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. At this point, like, not really, but
you actually kind of sounded black at the end.
But seriously,
right, Jessica? Staying out of
it. But like really, like at this point, it's a lifestyle in the sense that, I know what I can do, and I know what I know what I can do, and I know what I can't do. Like, for example, I know that I can't go buy a box of all butter cookies and expect it to last the whole day in my house. No, but seriously, like, I know where my self-control doesn't lie, because there are some people that could buy a box of those cookies and it'll last 2 weeks because they won't eat it all of it.
How do people like that even exist?
Right? Exactly. But I know my limitations and the fact that I know that if I buy it, I'm going to eat the whole box that day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've built, I've tracked in the past, which gave me a good understanding of food. And not everybody has to do this. Like, you didn't do that, but you were at the same place. But now I'm at a place where I can eat however I want to eat every single day, self-control, because I understand what I can do, what I can't do, and how I can eat for myself to maintain my physique. And it's taken a lot of like mistakes. It's taken a lot of experiences doing certain things that I don't do anymore, to be able to get to this point. But the main thing that is like, I think the biggest thing is like, what are the steps that like, what are the I guess the steps that everybody can put into their own life that can help them get from that point A to a point B where now they're eating healthy every single day, but they're not stressed about their next meal. They're not stressed about food. They're not stressed about their diet because it's just a way of eating that they enjoy and they like, and it's part of their actual lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. I had to actually look up what butter cookies are. Is this what you mean?
No. They're okay. So they're these cookies from like Rayleigh's, and they're called all butter cookies, but they're normal cookies, but the texture and the consistency, it's like so gooey and just so good. Like, that's the thing. Like, you know, I know people who can just have it, but I have to eat the whole thing.
It's the kind of thing that would be impossible to put in your mouth without chewing on it. Like,
Well, yeah.
and all the saliva that builds up from it,
Right.
is just going to make the thing
Oh
disintegrate.
my God, yes.
Like, the saliva is just going to make everything just fall apart
Oh, they're
without
so
you even
good.
trying anything. Just once you put it in there, it's done.
Ah, man.
Dang.
Like, yeah, man.
I know butter cookies.
You know them exactly. But you see, like, with the way that my diet works at this point, you know, I can have some of those things, but I know I need to have some other people who can take a cookie.
People
so
are
that I
writing
don't-
this down. They're like, okay, got it. Butter cookies.
Butter cookies, yeah.
so that I don't eat all 6, because I know myself. I know that I will eat all 6.
So if you really did want to eat something like that, then maybe that's just something that you do when you go out to eat. You have dessert, or you walk to or go to your favorite place that has ice cream or something like that.
Yeah, I don't keep that, like, I just don't keep that stuff in the house because I know where my self-control is strong and where it's weak. It's weak with the carton of ice cream. I won't just have a little cup and put it in there. I'll take the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty bad with that too. Like even in terms of like ice cream, like if I realize that a pint of Ben and Jerry's is extremely dense, but I'm going to kill that entire thing. But even worse, if I was to buy like like half-gallon thing of ice cream, I would eat that whole thing too.
Yeah,
it's
same
just like
here.
whatever serving I buy, I'm just going to eat the whole thing.
Same here. But see, that's why when do you buy that stuff? I mean,
No, I can't really buy it unless I know for a fact that that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm like, hey, I'm committing to this, I'm going to eat this, committing to that, just the same way I would commit to, you know, getting on and sticking on the diet with a lot of like being regimented about it. Sometimes when it comes to the opposite side of that, I want to kind of just go after that in whatever way I can. So I got to make sure though that I'm not, I don't know, eating like 15 different things that way, because I'm just going to go nuts. I'm going to go crazy, you know?
Let me ask you this, Mark. With where you are right now, you didn't bother tracking or doing much of that stuff, right? What did you have to go through, you know, when you started doing all this diet stuff to where you are now that you think like helped you to actually maintain what you're doing now? That helped you like learn what you can do, what you can't do? Like, what are the things that got you from point A to point B?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know that I've just been lifting for a really long time. I've been into exercise a really long time, and I've also been into diet for a really long time. So I have been paying attention to nutrition, supplements. I've been paying attention to all these things for a really long time. So by the time I got, you know, into my powerlifting career and then weighed 330 pounds, it wasn't like I never really heard about how to eat before. I already had a good understanding of like what to eat, and especially probably a better understanding of like what not to eat, which I think is an easier thing to agree upon. People have a hard time agreeing on, you know, how much meat we should eat, if we should eat meat at all, and versus vegetables, and people get nutty with that stuff, right? So I think, you know, where you'd want to probably start is to start to learn about food, and a great way to learn about food is to look at nutrition labels. A great way to learn more about food is to kind of pay attention to, when you're in the grocery store, kind of pay attention to like how it's set up. You know, a lot of the healthier stuff, and they're you know, the grocery stores are aware of this now, so they put unhealthy stuff there too. But if you shop around the outside of the grocery store, that's usually where kind of the meat is, the produce, and you go down the aisles, and that's where all the junk is, and that's where, you know, all the stuff is cost 3 cents to make, but they charge $6 for it or whatever, right? Meanwhile, people are talking about how expensive the meat is. It's like, in comparison, the markup on a box of cereal is insane versus the markup on some steak. So I think I would actually agree in a sense of like, we should be looking at nutritional labels. We should have a sense of, what does this have in it, and how much stuff is it? Does it have a lot of ingredients? Is this something that I want to be eating now that I'm in pursuit of trying to be healthier? Where I think everyone should start, because in my opinion, if you've struggled with food in the past and you don't have a track record of like being able to control yourself very well, I think that most people should start off with some type of exercise and something simple that you can actually do, whether it be, swimming, cycling, walking, hiking. I don't even really care so much about the gym at first. If that's something that you like to do, then that would be fantastic as well. But I think that people just need to really work on moving more. The next place I would go from there is again, I'd start with the food labels, as I mentioned before. Learn about your food, figure out what walking or biking or something to that nature. And then kind of the last element of it is, you have to kind of get real with yourself, and you have to have kind of a hard conversation with yourself and say, you know what, I've been kind of gluttonous. I've been really just enjoying a lot of alcohol and food, and like, I've been a bit of a pig. Like, you're not trying to like kick yourself while you're down or anything, but it's important that you're kind of honest. Like, if I'm being honest, then I've been eating too much over the last several years. So now you're gonna have to figure out, well, what can be an effective way to where I can eat less? If you just all of a sudden pull 25% of someone's calories out from underneath them and told them to move more, that's going to be one of those people that's going to gain the weight back. They might lose weight really effectively. They might lose 30 pounds in 30 days, but that's not the goal. That's not the game that we're trying to play. We're trying to lose some weight and have a downward trend for a while until you start to feel more comfortable about yourself and you start feeling more confident in yourself. Then you can kind of, audible and switch things up from there. But I think it's really important that you figure out, what is this way of me eating less going to look like? And that's where you can decide, I'm going to track. That's where you can decide, I'm not going to eat any carbs. That's where you can decide how you're going to be able to manage your calories on a daily basis. The reason why I get frustrated sometimes on the calories thing is that I do think that it's pretty skewed, but it is a level of measure, and we don't really have any other way of measuring it.
When you say skewed, you mean like it's like hard to get super accurate?
Yeah, it can be tough to be accurate. It can be tough to try to figure out like a level of calories that somebody exerts. What's your level of activity? Somebody's like, mine's an 8, and they're really like a 4, but they're just always tired because they're out of shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think some of those things are a little bit of guesswork. It doesn't mean that they don't work, because you'll still end up at some point landing on a energy amount that makes sense for somebody to continue to have progress losing weight. But you're going to have to figure out what is going to be a way that's going to be effective for me to drop weight. If weighing stuff on a scale frequently seems to be something that's really going to annoy you, and it doesn't seem like it's something that you can do, that does not even mean that that's no longer an option for you. Because if you get in practice of doing that and you start to learn what the calories look like for a piece of chicken versus a piece of steak, you don't have to do it forever.
Mm-hmm.
It may be in your best interest to do it for a while so you learn it, but you don't have to do it forever. There's also some options of getting meals from some of these meal prep companies, or not the best option, but like getting stuff certain sizes from the store. Even like a hamburger patty. Like a hamburger patty that's already like in patty form is going to cost more, but it's already in the shape of a patty. It already has X amount of calories. It makes counting your calories really, really easy if that's something that you want to do. But for me personally, because I've had such a background in food and nutrition and kind of understood what it was going to take to lose weight, I never bothered with it. The only thing that I weigh all the time is myself. That's how I track whether I'm eating too much or too little. To me, it has always made the most sense to me. I made the comment before. If I had a bucket that I carried with me, and somebody poured water into it, and I walked around with it, and then I poured some water out of it, and I walked around. Someone poured more water into it. You can think about the water representing energy, energy out, right? Am I going to continue to weigh what went in and what went out and sit there and try to calculate it? Or am I just going to weigh the bucket? So for me, I've always just weighed myself. That's kind of my look at it. And I also understand the reason why people do track. That's where you came from. That's your background. And you used to be really hungry, right? You used to have like a ferocious appetite.
Yeah.
For myself, I've been pretty fortunate. I get hungry and I can eat. And if I allow myself to get pretty hungry, I can eat pretty good. But I think in general, people would be kind of disappointed with the amount of food I can eat. It's really not, it's nothing to like write home about. It's not super impressive. I'm no Furious Pete, that's for sure. And so, maybe it fit your personality better. You're probably a little bit more organized than me and stuff like that anyway. I've never really been that way. And so it's going to have to be something that fits your personality, your environment. It's going to have to fit into all aspects of your life.
Yeah. One thing I really like that you mentioned is that like the people can just like look at labels and kind of understand what's in the food they eat, because once a person starts doing that and they start to understand relatively what is a lot and what's a small amount, they'll start to look at that bowl of cereal a little bit differently. Like, okay, oh wow, a cup of Frosted Flakes is 50 grams of carbs. Wait up, I'm having like 4 cups of that every single morning.
Yeah.
I'm having 200 grams of sugar with my bowl of cereal in the morning. God, right? That's crazy when you actually start to realize how much it is. So that's why, like, I think that, I don't like it when people only start to like do meal plans. Like if somebody were to give somebody a meal plan, I don't like that much, especially when someone's just starting out, because like you mentioned, they can lose that weight. They can stick to that for a while, but they haven't really built a back end, in the back of their head, an understanding of what's going in.
Meal plan might be like you're having some oatmeal and some egg whites in the morning type of thing, but it's not really saying like amounts, and it's not necessarily, the calories aren't worked out type of deal.
Yeah, the calories aren't worked out. They don't know what the amount that's in it. So they'll lose weight on the meal plan, but when they stop the meal plan, they don't really have any type of understanding on how to maybe do it on their own, or how to hit those calories with the different types of foods. So that's one thing. And that's something that really helped me with tracking. But the thing about my personality that comes in line with why when I was tracking, I was having such a voracious appetite, was because I still had some of the habits of like snacking here and there, right? So I would have a meal, and I would have multiple meals throughout the day. But after that meal, I'd always want to eat a little bit more. So I'd eat that meal, and maybe I'd find a little bit of something else. And then I'd have my next meal, and maybe I'd have a little bit of something else. And then I'd have my last meal and a little bit of something else. And even though I never really got crazy out of shape, I wasn't ever feeling like I was in control of my hunger, or I had control of this stuff. I think one of the big habits that helped me to be able to control this was just making sure that literally everything I ate was full meals, like was literally just whole foods. And I know myself well enough that I know that if I do keep snacks around, that I won't eat a small amount of them. Like they just don't work for me.
Did that come from bodybuilding? Was that the experience through bodybuilding where it was like, if we're going to eat, it's for fuel and it's to build muscle?
Yeah, that was that during bodybuilding. Like when I was in prep though, there was much more focus. You know what I mean? Like when I was eating to help with like getting bigger in powerlifting, I didn't care about snacks. Like I'd eat them because it was gonna help me get bigger. You know what I mean? It was falling within my calories so I could get bigger. But for bodybuilding, there wasn't much room for snacks in terms of the amount of food that I had access to.
And let me explain that just for a second to everybody. A big reason on why there's not room for a snack is because if you don't have the right combination of macronutrients and micronutrients, you're going to really feel like dog shit. Yes. So, yeah, you could have a snack here and there and it probably wouldn't necessarily hurt anything. But if you're having enough snacks that it's pulling you away, it's deterring you from eating some of these meals, you could really be sabotaging yourself on not getting the quote unquote gains with a Z, right? And you could also be sabotaging yourself from just not having the right nutrients and not feeling good and wanting to be hungry and having a ton of cravings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I could totally make, these cookies fit. Like they'll fit my macros for sure. But then when it comes to energy during my workout, or when it comes to cravings later on during that day because I maybe didn't have enough fiber to fill my stomach up so I felt fuller, I'll then maybe end up binging because now I'm super hungry. It's not a good call. So like outside of bodybuilding, I was able to make that stuff fit, but like because like I still had that habit of snacking on stuff and having small stuff around, it caused me to like maybe always be in a little bit of a surplus or never feel really in control of my appetite, So
I think in our reference, what we're referring to with snacking, I believe you're referring to the same thing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
mm-hmm.
But we're referring to pretty much processed foods.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about
an apple.
Yeah, we're not talking about eating an apple. We're not talking because like I actually do think that that's a pretty good practice. I've had friends and family and other people try this before. Before they leave work, they have a piece of cheese or some type of cheese that they like, and they eat an apple.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times somebody's, it's 4:30, it's 5 o'clock. They leave work. By the time they get home, they had to get gas in the car, so they don't have to do it the next morning, and so on. By the time they get home and by the time they eat, it's been a really long time before that last meal. And sometimes their hunger just overrides every good thought that they had towards their nutrition and towards their health. And so a snack that is like not processed food, something that's fairly healthy, can really be something to help keep you on your path. So just keep in mind when we're referring to snacks and we're talking about how important it is to get rid of snacks, we're pretty much talking about processed foods and stuff that comes in like a package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. So like that's why I don't do any of that pretty much because I know that'll just keep my appetite going throughout the whole day. Then another thing also was having times where like I just focus on eating. So it doesn't need to be a 20-hour fast, but fasting has helped me a lot in the fact that, like we've mentioned this, it has helped me understand how to be okay feeling a little bit hungry. Because I feel like, especially if you're going to go from being 300 pounds or a really high weight, right? And it took you a long time to get there, you're not going to want to feel hungry, or you're going to feel really, really uncomfortable when that happens. So I think one thing, a habit that fasting has helped me a lot with is becoming friends with the feeling of being hungry every now and then. And some days I don't fast, by the way, so it's not like I'm fasting every day, but I don't feel like my hunger is in control of my actions, right? Because a lot of times when you're trying to diet, a lot of times you fall off your diet because you're just plain hungry.
I like that a lot. Your hunger is in control of your actions. That happens to people all the time. It happens to me all the time. And I also think that fatigue is something you got to be really careful about too. A lot of times your sleep can be compromised by the foods that you eat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is fact. Like it can be compromised by the food that you eat. And if you become unhealthy, many people that are unhealthy have just crap sleep habits. Many people that have crappy sleep habits have heart attacks. I mean, it's that serious. The heart attacks, diabetes.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been a link to cancer, but like cancer seems to be.
There has been.
Well, there you go. Cancer seems to be something that is linked pretty highly to different amounts of stress. And unfortunately, we still don't know how some people get it. They can get it through all kinds of crazy exposures to different things. But I would imagine that if you can sleep better, if you can eat better, if you can have some better habits, that maybe you kind of stand a chance of like fighting some of these things off. But snacks, man, that should have been the first thing I mentioned is, if you really care and you're concerned about your health and you want to make some long-term changes, that would be the first thing to try to really fix. And let's just say that you like love snacks more than you love anything in the whole world, right? What we could do, you could still fit some snacks in there. And I think the diet that Nsima and I have landed on, my brother had kind of landed on the same thing, and we did it through such different ways. He was tracking stuff. I never really messed around with that much. But the easiest diet, in my opinion, is to utilize intermittent fasting with a diet that's primarily a carnivorous diet. Like the main thing in the diet is meat. There can still be rice. There can still be potatoes. It's like the only way that I know how to like not be on a diet. Like it doesn't feel like a diet. And maybe someone can kind of say like if it fits your macros or some of these other diets feel the same way because there's room for some of these other foods. But I still don't really love the idea of like measuring and weighing and being attached to an app on my phone. Like, just shoot me. I'd rather I'd rather be out, you know, than to have to mess around with that. So, if you're trying to find like a cheat code, if you're trying to find something that can work really really well for you, you know, again, keep in mind like there's not necessarily a magical thing that you can do where you're going to be like, oh my god, I lost 20 pounds in one day or something. And that's not even a goal. We're not trying to lose weight super fast. But just kind of keep in mind that, if you want to try something that doesn't feel like a diet, try intermittent fasting with a primarily based carnivorous diet. And if you still love snacks so much that it's your favorite thing, have them at the end of the day when you already met your requirements for your macros and whatever nutrition you needed for the day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally.
You got it all in, and you want to have some potato chips, you got it all in. You want to have a Quest bar, you got it all in. You want to have, milk and some cookies, or like it could be anything as long as as long as it's not every night, like as long as it's not all the time, and as long as it's not. Look, if you could do this and you could have 2 cookies and a glass of milk later on in the day after you got all your other requirements in, you exercised. The negative impact that's going to have, I would imagine, would be pretty damn minimal.
Yeah. And go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was just going to ask you, like, when you were tracking, did you ever get, like, anxious when you were doing it?
This is something that a lot
Some
of people
do,
talk
right?
about. Yeah, a lot of people get really anxious because it's like, oh, I have to track this, or like it really just messes with them mentally as far as food's concerned. Personally, no. It didn't make me feel anxious. But I can understand having anxiety when it comes to that, because there's like, I can understand the anxiety aspect of it.
Well, plus it's important too. Like he's had a long history in exercise too. Like even before you got really, really into diet, you were already training for a few years probably, and you were already you were already like into it. So I think that's a big difference. Like some people that we talk to, sometimes they're completely coming from nowhere. They haven't really ever explored any of this. So it's like it's all so damn new to them. And it's like, man, I feel like I need to move into your fucking house, man. Like I need to help you that much. I need to, especially like just something like going shopping. It's really complicated. You hear, oh, yogurt's great for you. Like shit, well, is it? Like if we start looking at labels.
Yeah.
Do I get the non-fat one because it may have less calories, but it has more sugar, or do I get the high-fat one? Depends on what road you chose. Like what road are we going to go down? Now those things can be nice too because they do have all the information on how many calories it has and stuff. But it's there's a lot of tough choices out there, man. It's not easy.
Yeah, because I mean we're essentially like telling people like or trying to give tools for people, but like when it comes to actually like tracking and counting your macros and stuff, like it can go the opposite way, right?
It can, but I really think that we need to know why we're doing it before we head in. So first off, when it comes to someone who's like, let's say they're trying to lose weight, right? Let's not say gain weight. Let's try like a lot of people, they're trying to drop body fat, they're trying to drop weight. The first thing is understanding that there's going to be a lot of habits that you're going to have to change to do this successfully in the long term. So the changes you want to make are changes you want to make for a long time, because most people, they can drop the weight, right? But they're not able to keep it off. They always end up gaining it back. So the changes that you're trying to make right now, you're trying to make them for the long term. If you're going to take the route of tracking your macros, the first thing that I typically try to tell people to do, especially if they've never done it before, is let's not change a crazy amount of things in terms of what you're eating. Let's not even have numbers we're trying to hit. Let's just learn how to just track what you're eating. So eat the same things. Some things, okay, let's not F with anymore because that's just bad. But let's eat these same things and let's just track it so you can have an understanding of how much food you've been intaking. Even if you're wrong here and there, let's just do that. And then from there, because tracking is frustrating. When I first started tracking macros, I remember how frustrating those first few months were. So every time I tell someone you're about to learn how to track, I always let them know this is going to be frustrating, kind of a bit of annoying, and you're going to fuck up quite a bit, because that's kind of how it is. But after they get the hang of that, then they can start hitting benchmarks, and then they can actually understand what's in these portions of food, which I think that's a pretty big deal. And then understand the calories it takes to drop. But I think the biggest thing, Andrew, what was your exact question?
It was just if you ever got anxious when you were tracking, and kind of, but you just kind of said it like how you got to warn people, like because this could actually kind of set you back a little bit once you realize like, oh my gosh, like I gotta try to eat under this amount of, like I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So like in most cases, I think it's just because it's learning how to do something new, and it's almost a little bit invasive. Like, cause now you're having to weigh certain foods, et cetera. I can see how it can be a bit of a hurdle, but everyone that I have track, I tell them the reason you're doing this is so you don't have to do it later. Right. Some people that I work with don't track at all just because their lifestyle doesn't fit it. Let's just say they're like 50, like, yeah, actually Jag Deep. He's 50 something years old, travels around for business a lot. He does not have time for tracking and all that type of stuff. So then we just go by portion sizes and taking out all the beers at night that you have and all like that type of stuff. And boom, we're moving forward. But some people, it is really beneficial, I believe, for the long term. Because the short term, okay, yeah, this is going to be something that we're going to do, but it's a learning experience. That's all I look at it as. I used to think when I was tracking in the past that, oh yeah, this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life, which is why I'm really careful when I say those, say those type of things, like this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, because like I would hate to have to track every single day now. But the thing is, I built that understanding so that I don't have to. And I learned, like we've mentioned, in terms of snacking, I don't do that anymore. All my meals are meals, right? And in terms of the fasting, okay, so I don't have to fast 20 hours every day. Some days will be 14, 15, 16 hours. But I've now built a habit of segmenting the times I eat to certain periods of the day. Not I'm grazing all day and eating all day long. I think that's one big thing that a lot of people do. So it's just that, like, if you had that habit and the habit of not snacking, that would cause you to move forward even without tracking.
Yeah, let's just say that you were curious, and you're sitting there thinking about, I would love the opportunity to figure out how to make more money. And, what if you but what if you sat down and actually really thought this out? Like, how am I going to make more money? And what if you thought to yourself, well, shit, like I don't really have like a skill set that's like, that I can just sell. Training, so you can sell that, right? Some people they know something, they're a mechanic, they could sell that, they can make money that way. But some people, maybe they're not sure, right? So when you sit down and you think about it, what's going to be a way that I could make some good money? Well, maybe a way to make some good money would be to become a photographer or a videographer, or be able to do web-based stuff. Look, everyone has a website nowadays, right? So learning the internet, digital marketing, right? So you might start to kind of like, what's something that I think I could actually do? And then like, what else would fall in line with figuring out ways to make more money? How about I maybe try to find some people that make some good money? They probably have some good insight in how to make more money. Maybe I'll hang around with those people. You start to put strategies into place, and the main thing that you're doing is whether it's you want to be a personal trainer or whether you want to be a manager of a restaurant, what you start to put into place is a strategy on how you're going to be able to acquire the proper knowledge to match up with wherever you're going next. It's like you need training for it. And so what you're saying with the tracking, I really like, and I never looked at it that way before. Maybe I'll stop hating on it so much. But that really makes a lot of sense. That actually really makes a lot of sense. It's like, you're going to hate me, but I'm going to make you track for the next several weeks, because we really need to know like what you're eating. We need to know at what level, and more so than you as the coach knowing what the person's eating, they need to know what they're eating, and they need to have the skill set to be able to like fix themselves. They want to, they go away on vacation, and they were following a diet and they lost 20 pounds, but they gained like 10 of it back. They went for it, right? Well, now it's like, you hope that you gave them some of the skill set to where they can get back on track. They can remember, oh yeah, all right, fuck, I need to track again. I need to get back on schedule, and I need to get kind of back into the things. So really just it's trying to figure out how can you acquire more knowledge, maybe learn about a couple different diets, because maybe not eating any carbs just doesn't sound like it makes any sense to you and it's nothing that you want to try. Look into some different diets. There's a lot of options.
Mm-hmm. And we're not going to go too deep down this road. We mentioned sleep a little bit. We've talked about sleep on almost every single podcast. But, I was just talking to a person about this recently. Like, she has cravings all the time. And then I was like, oh, cravings. Well, okay, let's just talk about this. How much sleep do you get at night? 4 to 5 hours. And like whenever I get like minimal sleep, I have cravings.
Yeah.
And that's being in shape, that's working out, that's having good dietary habits. I start to get not just wants, cravings. So like another one of the big habits that you're going to need if you're going to be able to go on a long-term change in terms of your protocol for your food is to get enough sleep, because that's going to help you in terms of these cravings that pop up all the time for you. If you're rested and like your hunger hormone, ghrelin, and your satiety, leptin, all of that, if it's in line, then you're not going to be having to fight against your own biology to stay in shape. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be trying to fight against like systems in your body that are telling you to have foods that you shouldn't be having. You're making your job harder for yourself.
Yeah, we do hammer the sleep, but it is important. It's a critical element. And what you said earlier about is very truthful. You said there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to need to change in order to in order to be able to kind of have the weight loss be more permanent. Again, to lose a couple pounds and to lose it quickly, we could change one or two things and you could lose some weight. But like we really need to instill some strong disciplines that are going to last for a long time. And so when you start to think about, oh man, I need to change a lot of myself, it gets to be really frustrating. It gets to be really, really hard. But it's just like one thing at a time, just work on one thing at a time. For myself, some of the things that I had to fix over the years, number one was I needed to try to figure out how to get a handle on cravings. I needed to figure out how to get a handle on carbohydrates. Not potatoes, not rice, but, stuff that tastes really, really good, like pancakes and peanut butter cups and ice cream and all that good stuff. I need to figure out how to get a handle on that. So my weapon against it was just to not eat it. And it ended up working out really, really well for me. But I would have never known if I didn't try it. I think for yourself, something that has helped with the hunger suppression has been fasting, which sounds completely counterintuitive to what you'd think. But it's like if we go almost the opposite direction sometimes of what we think, sometimes we get a really, really good result because the discipline of it it's a challenge enough to where it's kind of exciting in a way. Like, I think I could do this, and you hear that other people do it, so you're like, that guy's not better than me, that girl's not better than me, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
And there you are, you're on your way. But the main thing for me, or two main things for me, was fixing the issue with the carbohydrates, and then the second part of it was fixing just kind of just shitty sleep. I would sleep like crap, and then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd watch TV and I would just eat. So one of the tricks that I did, though, one of the things that I did that worked really well, it took me a long time to get my sleep, and I'm still always a work in progress with it. One of the tricks that I did was I would make a protein shake. I'd shake it up and I'd leave it in the fridge, and it had a little bit of heavy cream in it. It tasted really good. It wasn't this insane amount of food or anything. It was just a protein shake. It was a lot less damaging than what I was doing before.
Yeah.
So I was like, if your fat ass wakes up, and I even have stairs and everything, I shouldn't be, you figure like going up and down the stairs would be like at least somewhat of a deterrent. But
Yeah.
I was like, if your fat ass wakes up and you want to eat something, just have the protein shake. And so little things like that. It took a long time to be able to get there, but I made it.
Yeah. No, that's a really good trick in and of itself. Eat more protein. Like that, I guess if we're going to make a list of this, sleep, don't snack. What else was there? Something else. Become friend. Oh, eat at certain times, and protein. If you just eat a lot of protein even before your meal, you're going to eat less food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you have a protein shake before you have a meal, let's say you feel really hungry, right? If you snag up and you drink a protein shake, shoot, you're not going to want to have whatever it is you're about to have.
I do that quite a bit, especially like when I'm going to go to like sushi. Like when you know you're going somewhere where you're gonna eat a lot. You're gonna eat a lot more food, a lot more overall calories than at something that you really like, right?
Yeah.
So have even let's just say you were going for Italian food. Like most Italian food, it's gonna have fat and carbs in it. It's gonna have a big surplus. So maybe you can have not the most appetizing thing in the world, but maybe you have a piece of chicken breast before you go. It's like, now when you go, it's going to be that much harder to slug down a ton of food. Something I'll do here and there is just eat egg whites. I just eat because I get hard-boiled eggs, and I don't like the yolks in the hard-boiled eggs. So I'll just eat egg whites. And I know some people are like, oh, all this stuff's in the yolk or whatever, but like I don't really dig them when they're hard-boiled that way. And so I've done that a bunch of times. I'll eat 3 or 4 of them, and it's like that's not going to make me full, but it gives me a little something, and then, by the time I go eat, I'm actually still digesting that.
Yeah.
So I'm not in such a frenzy.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's super important because, like, I'm sure, and seeing you've heard, like, from somebody you've been working with, like, oh, I messed up on my diet. Like, I was doing so good. I was on such a good, I was on a roll. Like, now I got to start all over again, and then they might fall off. But, like, how important is it to, like, learn from a setback? Like I had mentioned on the other podcast the other day, like I had a really big meatball sandwich and it was delicious, but I felt like crap afterwards. So now I definitely don't want to eat that again. But other people might look at that and be like, oh, I'm a piece of shit again because I ate bad. So I'm just going to keep going down this road because that's just who I am.
I think if you're someone who works with people, you just got to let them know that first off, it's going to happen. Like, just like whenever I tell people, okay, this is going to be really frustrating to start to do, and it's going to suck, and you're going to mess up multiple times. It's the same thing with the whole diet process. Like, you will binge. Like, I really hope you don't, but you will. And just understand that when it happens, we're cool. I'm not mad at you. But you got to also be cool with yourself and understand that you can just get right back on it the next day, because I've binged multiple times too. You know it's going to happen. So I don't go for perfection. Like I want to go hard and I want to make it happen. I want to do as well as I can, but we're human, right? There's going to be a night where maybe you only get 3 hours of sleep because something stressful happened. And then the next day you're compromised and you're like, I want to eat this, and you eat it and then you feel bad. But you literally just got to get back on it because that's going to happen. And it's not like you've lost all of your progress. Slow down a little bit. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's important too that you probably want to try to do those things later in the day. Well, it's probably not the greatest thing to eat a big meatball sub and go to bed. But in general, I think that those slip-ups and those binges, they probably happen for most people later on in the day anyway. But I think that the next day, feels a little bit like a reset, feels a little bit like a new start. And you know what, too? Like, I think sometimes, and this is a really slippery slope, but sometimes you just got to let those cravings just come on. Let's let them happen. Let's let them be. And
like feed the craving?
Yeah, just feed it. Yeah, like I was talking about with some of the fighters we were watching earlier. Like, you just let them get all that shit out that they want to get out, right? What is that thing inside you that's driving you so hard towards that? And then maybe you can even have a little bit of a strategy behind it. Maybe say, hey, I'm going to exercise like this week. I'm going to implement some fasting, but at the end of every night, I'm going to have a piece of chocolate, or I'm going to have some ice cream, or I'm going to have... I don't really see harm in doing that. I don't recommend that you start anything out that way. I think that it would be a good idea to get some momentum going. But maybe you're craving like a burrito. Maybe you're craving some pizza. And again, maybe you utilize some intermittent fasting. And maybe your first meal after some of your fasting is some meat, so you're still eating something that is going to be nutritious for you. And maybe the last thing that you eat is a couple slices of pizza. But if you had some meat or you had something beforehand, hopefully it will fill you up enough to where you don't eat 75 slices of pizza.
Exactly. It's like diet jiu-jitsu, man. This is sick. But yeah, no.
Yeah, you need technique, man. You need counters, right, to everything that you're about to do. And then also too, like, I think that this is a huge mistake, is kind of like binge. You binge on something and then you punish yourself a ton for it. We talked about that before, where that's like a form of bulimia. I do think the eye for an eye approach, like, hey, you ate a lot, so you should exercise a lot. It makes some sense, but just because you ate a lot in that one day doesn't mean that you have to try to exercise it all the way the next day. I mean, if you were to eat like 5 Big Macs or something, I mean, you're going to be exercising a lot to try to work off that amount of calories, right? So it doesn't really make any sense, and that's not anything that's sustainable. And if you overwork yourself the next day, you're overtrained. If you're overtrained, you're going to be fatigued. And if you're fatigued, you're going to have cravings. What if you train so hard the next day because you're upset with yourself because of the way that you ate, that it overstimulates your central nervous system? What do we know about that? Well, that negatively impacts your sleep. So now your sleep is screwed up. You had 4 hours of sleep. You had a stressful day. Your kids are a pain in the ass. Work's hard, right? And now your defenses are down. Your hands aren't up anymore. And now you're just going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to have a piece of cake. I don't care. And you're just going to kind of like, you're going to start to fall apart. So you don't want to ever really try to overdo any one thing. Even when it comes to like fasting, you can, what's your behavior like? Like if you try a 72-hour fast, I think it's also important, what's your behavior like the next 72 hours? I have a lot of friends that will say, oh yeah, I fasted 24 hours, but they're like 2 days later, I found myself, elbows deep in some ice cream. They were just going at it. And that's something, it's just a lot of awareness. It's a lot of, let me remove myself from the life I had before where I wasn't paying attention to the stuff I was eating, and let me get a good, healthy relationship with paying attention to what I'm going to consume now. And let's have most of the things go towards my goals rather than most things pulling me away from my goals.
Yeah.
If you can kind of get in a, 70-80% range, then you're really starting to head in the right direction.
No, I totally agree. One thing is, like you mentioned, the awareness aspect of things and figuring out exactly the best things that work really, really well for you. Because for the longest time, even myself, in terms of, let's say, carbohydrates, right? Because I knew the function that they could, especially for high performance athletes, be used as forms of energy. So a lot of high level athletes eat a lot of carbohydrates. So in my mind, when I was doing a lot of these things, I was like, there's no way that if I could eat 200 grams of carbs or even less than that I'd perform well. I always never thought that was possible, because I'd always be hearing like these high level powerlifters or high level just athletes being like, oh man, when I don't have my carbs, I feel like a zombie. I can't do it, right? But then I was like, you know what? Let me just give it a try, because sometimes when I eat excess carbohydrates, I feel a little bit sluggish if I don't work out. So let me see how I feel doing an exercise with, that's 150 grams of carbs or something that day, or some number like that. And I felt fine. Like especially when I had it close to workout sometimes, or even fasted now, I feel fine. I think you got to experiment and figure out, maybe for those specific athletes, maybe it's true. Maybe they can't get by without eating a lot of carbs. But for me, now, I don't eat that many carbs each day. I don't need to, because it doesn't really affect my performance in that crazy of a way. So that works for me, but that might not work for somebody else. So throughout this whole diet process that I've been on for these, 7-8 years, there's all these little things that I know work really, really well for me. But just because they work for me doesn't mean that they're going to work for you. So that awareness aspect of things, knowing what you can get away with, knowing you can have some things in the house without going crazy, or, you don't have to fast to be able to maintain whatever. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. Although, again, the fasting can be really beneficial, I think. But one more thing for myself, there was a point where I was fasting so long every single day, and I was getting really, really, really lean, but I was like, I'm taking this a little bit too far. I'm getting too lean right now. I'm going to just increase my window and eat a little bit more food, because I don't feel as good being this lean. So I had to figure out where I should back off from that a little bit and have a little bit more control with that fasting,
Yeah, you can get addicted to any of it, as crazy as that sounds. You can get way into it, and you kind of get excited too. You're getting leaner. You're like, this feels great, and then after a while, it doesn't feel great. You're like, whoops, went too far one way. Something I was just thinking about while you were talking about some of the different things, some of the different pitfalls, and some of the different things you ran into. I think it's each person has their own challenges, and each person has just a different day than everybody else, and they have different negative influences, different positive influences in their life, and sometimes you don't always have people, around you that are on board with what it is that you're doing, and so it's like, man, that can really be really hard. I've been very fortunate. My wife is super supportive of like almost all of my behaviors, whether they're not great or whether they're more positive. She has been pretty supportive on many fronts, and she understands that, like, if I make a decision to be a little bit more meticulous with my diet, because I feel like my diet's kind of a forever evolving thing. It's a moving target. I move it around. I try different things. I might try keto for a few weeks just to kind of restart and get myself back in that mode. I might be back on carnivore. I might be eating more fruit at a certain time. I just like to try stuff. I continue to try stuff. And so my wife is supportive, and she understands the weirdness. The kids understand it too, and they, it doesn't bother them one way or the other. I can still take them to whatever restaurant they want to go to, and if that restaurant just doesn't have anything for me to eat, I just won't eat anything. I'll just like drink like an iced tea.
Yeah.
Or just kind of like chill, and it doesn't bother me though, because I'll just eat before we leave the house. I'm full enough. I feel good. I had my nutrition. I had the food that I needed. And, now it's just their turn to eat. So that's really important. But if you don't have that, that's got to be tough. I would imagine you'd have to have some sort of conversation and tell your significant other, here's what I'd like to do and here's why. Like I really don't feel very good about myself. And I would imagine that most people, if you told them that you don't feel good about yourself and that you're kind of upset with yourself, you're heavier than you want to be, if you kind of laid all that on the line, then I can't see a scenario where they would be negative on that.
You would hope. Yeah, like you would definitely hope. I think that's something that if you're with somebody and you are trying to take this leap, you do have to communicate that to them so that they know maybe that they can help you out. But I wonder what kind of help would you tell somebody if, because there's a few people I actually know that are in this situation. Them and their significant other aren't in the greatest of shape. They want to take that move forward. They are taking that move forward, but their significant other continues not to really support them. Right? How do you deal with that? Like, you're married and your significant other is not, you're getting healthier. They're not really that interested in that. And they're not supportive of that. I mean, they're not doing anything to make it harder for you, but they're not necessarily making it easier, nor are they even on that path.
Right.
How would you, what kind of advice would you give them? Because honestly, I don't know what to tell somebody like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to a situation like that, you would have to say, well, I think, we might need somebody else to step in because I don't understand why you're not in support of what I'm trying to do. And then, I mean, before you get to that point, before you're like, hey, let's go see a therapist, I think what you should lay out there is to say, this is what I'd like to do, and this has nothing to do with me being unhappy with you. I'm not trying to become a different person to be with somebody else, because that might be their fear. They might think, oh shit, well, he's looking all good and like he's feeling great about himself, and now his secretary is checking him out or something like that. That might have like a fear of maybe they're worried that other women check you out or something like.
Yeah.
All kinds of crazy things happen when you're in a relationship, and jealousy is a really crazy, powerful thing. So I think that would be the important thing to share is like, I'm not trying to like be anybody else. I just am not happy with where I'm at right now. So I'd like to try to figure out a way to make progress towards this. So I just feel better, so I can be more productive, so I can be a better husband, so I can provide more for everybody in the house. And so I can, go outside with the kids and play with them and that kind of stuff. You might have to figure out a way to be more reassuring. I think a lot of times in relationships, and I think men are maybe a little bit more guilty, they just don't really say much. They just kind of like do things.
Yeah.
And I think the female might be like, huh? Like, why are you doing that? And so I think it would be important just to, and I've learned, wife and I just celebrated 19 years of marriage, and I've learned that's really just important just to just flat out just say it, and anytime I ever thought like, oh, I don't know about saying this or sharing that, it's always actually made everything a million times better. There's never been a situation, where she's like flipped out on me because of something. So it's just your fear of like, I don't want to say that to them. That might hurt them.
Yeah.
That might really bother them. But I think in this case in particular, it's like, man, just lay it out there. Tell them what you want to do. And if they're that negative about it and they really like want to sabotage it and everything, then I think maybe you have a larger problem. And one more point is that my wife, while she's been supportive, she doesn't like follow the exact same diet. And she also is not going to like cook every meal for me and stuff like that. I have certain foods at my house and I cook them up. But she's also just super understanding. But I think it's because she knows that my goals, like she might be cooking dinner and she might have been like working on something, she might be cooking something for the whole family. And I might be like cooking up some eggs just because I saw whatever she had. And I'm like, that's not where my diet's at right now. So I need to eat this. And it's never to hurt her or to shit on anything she's trying to do. It's just like, that's not currently what I'm doing. I'm not going to bother asking you to do anything extra for me. So I'm just going to do this. And I sit down and I eat with the whole family, but I eat something different.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Actually, let's say this. I'm curious about what you'd have to say to this too. Let's say that, you guys maybe have both been in shape, and then one individual starts to trend down, building unhealthy habits. They're getting out of shape. You notice it. It's like kind of getting an issue.
Yeah.
How do you voice that to them to help, like, to try and get them to bring it back? What is the best? How would you? Because I know there's so many situations that you could put this forward, but how would you go about that? Because a lot of people are probably dealing with that too.
Man, I think again, I think trying to address things as straight on as you can. In my case, I know my wife really well. I know that she loves swimming. I know that she loves to feel good.
Yeah.
I know that she loves to be in shape. And I know what it means to her. So if I saw something that was, if it was all stuff that was normal and there was just like a progression of like weight gain, I guess I probably wouldn't even question it. I probably wouldn't even address it at all. I'd probably just be like, I'm not sure what's going on. But I would imagine for her to gain weight, especially at this point, there would have to be like a real change somewhere. So if I saw the change, I would probably want to address it and say something to the effect of like, I know you don't want this for yourself. At least that's what I think. Like, I don't, and it's hard to really bring up, right? It'd be really difficult to bring up, but you could say like, I know that you probably don't enjoy this. So let's get you back on track. Let's figure out a way to get you back on track. Something I've noticed that has helped a lot of people get back on track is to find something old that you used to like to do, and maybe you can start doing it again. Maybe you really love to walk or jog, or you used to have a group that you used to go and cycle with on the weekends, or just if you can find that thing, whatever that thing was that you used to like to do, and if there's not anything there, then you'll have to probably just kick off a new habit, which will be really hard, right? But if you have something, kind of older that you'd like to do, then I think that would be, that would be an important thing. I'm trying to think like in terms of, when I've gained a lot of weight, my wife, she knew it was sort of for power, the thing. I mean, I took it probably too far, but she never really had anything like negative to say there. I do think that sometimes in those cases, or many times in those cases, it takes somebody to say something negative that they didn't even really maybe mean to hurt somebody. And I'm not saying to do this in your relationship, but I've seen this come from like somebody outside the relationship where they say something mean. Another family member says something really like rude, but they didn't mean to be rude. Like, oh, you look different, or something like this, like where you're like, whoa, like they just, for whatever reason, they couldn't keep their mouth shut, or they just word something the wrong way at the wrong time, and it's devastating. However, I've seen people really flourish from that, where they're like, you know what, I'll make that fucking bitch eat those words. I'll make that person eat those words, right? And so it's an unfortunate thing when somebody really hammers somebody with something really negative, but sometimes it can help, and it's probably going to come from like mom, or it's probably going to somebody else in the family is probably going to clean that up for you.
Yeah. Wow.
They'll come in and do the damage for you.
Well, I think I had like, yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I like
With
it.
so with your diet, we started out kind of talking a lot about this in terms of like rate of ease, right? Like it's like just not that hard for you anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
you also over a period of time you start to acquire a stronger kind of skill set in abstaining from certain foods.
Mm-hmm.
You get more used to it, you get more comfortable, so it gets to be easier and easier. So now, you could say like on a scale of 1 to 10, the diet's like a 5. Like maybe maybe once or twice a day you think about, oh, it'd be kind of cool to go to this place and eat that food or whatever, but it passes and you're totally fine with it.
Yeah.
Um, what is your diet right now? Like, what do you usually eat? Um, is there certain things that are just like out of bounds that aren't part of the plan for the moment? Like, are you eating like meat and vegetables and fruit? Like eating rice, potatoes? What you eating?
Yeah. So just go over the food I have in the house. I have ribeyes. I have some other like leaner type of steaks. I have salmon in there that I'll eat like every few days. I have liver. I have eggs, hard boiled, and like straight eggs. I've got milk A2 for like some protein. What else? I have spinach, vegetables. I have some oranges, but I also have orange juice. Some of this stuff is like from the vertical diet. Um, let's see what other bananas, sweet potatoes, potatoes. Um, did I mention anything others in meats or carbs? Yeah,
All the stuff you mentioned, by the way, tastes fucking awesome.
yeah. Like it
You
really
know what I mean?
does.
It does. It tastes great.
I have rice, the Bibigo stuff from Costco. We've mentioned that before.
Yeah.
The brand is Bibigo. It's this sticky rice that's just absolutely phenomenal. You guys should grab that. So that's great. Um, in terms of food, that's I mentioned the word salt.
Yeah.
No, in terms of food, that's pretty much it. Like I have pork belly too. I get bacon every now and then. And yeah, like I keep like nowadays, like my food is like super simple, but it's really, really good. It's literally like that. Yeah. So it's whole foods for all my meals. I don't have any snack foods in the house.
Do you eat
Um,
like 2 or 3 times? Like I know you mentioned you backed off a tiny bit on some of the fasting, but is it usually like you get home from jujitsu at what time?
it depends on the day. So Tuesdays, Thursdays, I'll get back from jujitsu at like 8. So I'll usually have a really, really big meal after that. Some of the days before jujitsu, though, I will have like a meal a few hours before jujitsu so I can get in a lot of like, you know, a lot of the micronutrients that I need to be getting in during the day. Helps me get that in. I
Mhm.
also have carrots, by the way. Carrots are there too. And avocados. Sorry, guys. So, yeah, going back to that. So, like some days it is one big meal, depending on like how busy I've been during the day. Most days it's 2 meals. That's
Yeah.
pretty much how it is. It's rarely I'll have 3 meals during the day, but that's fine too if it happens.
Hmm.
It's not like I'm straight off the diet. I just
Right.
maybe on a certain day. I think maybe it was yesterday or the day before. I decided to eat earlier in the day. Like I decided to eat at like 10 or 11 a.m. and I just had 3 meals that day. So it's yeah,
Right.
that's how it is.
I mean, this is really simple, but people just need to spend a lot more time not eating.
Yeah. But, like really when I think about this, the only reason why this is so simple right now is because there are certain negative habits that I don't have anymore that allows me to do this. So maybe for some people, this does sound kind of difficult, but at this point for me, it's not difficult at all. It's just like I don't have, cravings for certain things. I don't graze and eat throughout the whole day. And because of that, that's why this is so easy to do.
Mm.
But back in like maybe a few years ago, it probably would have been more difficult for me to go so many hours without having anything to eat. That would have been a no-no. I'd have something in my pocket or something in my car that I can go and snack on.
People need to. It's my belief that in life that people need stuff to look forward to. It's such a powerful thing that it even keeps people alive. Somebody you hear sometimes, a spouse dies, and then it's not too long after the other one dies too, right? And a lot of it has to do with like something to look forward to. Sometimes grandkids can help keep grandparents alive longer and things like that. What is it when it comes to your nutrition? What is it you're looking forward to? Like how are you able to stay on this plan?
Like, you mean like what am I looking forward to in terms of like
Your food. Yeah, your food. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
how are you able to, like, it doesn't, like, for somebody listening right now, they're like, this guy's an idiot, man. I can't I can't fast for 20 hours. I can't fast for, they're like, I can't even make it through the night without being starving in the morning. So what is it that you're looking forward to with your food that is allowing you to kind of handle this almost on a daily basis?
I think it's maybe, I would say maybe the heft of like the next meal. First off, like I know like I'm probably going to go eat like a ribeye with a few eggs. There's going to be some avocado, some carrots. There's also, yeah. But like eating all of that, and there's probably going to be some pork belly tonight because I'm defrosting that. That's so freaking good.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that if I think about it right now, after this podcast, I almost want to go home and make it now. But I'm probably just going to eat it later. But anyway, it's just the meal is so good and it's so hefty. And I know how good it is that like that's what I look forward to in terms of that meal. I don't know if that sounds weird to some people, but like... Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's what I was trying to set you up for. I was trying to set you up to say that specifically. And you're 250-ish pounds. I'm 250-ish pounds. This is something that, like, for maybe some people that enjoy food, that like food, this could be your thing that you could look forward to. I get to get home from work or from a long day, and I get to just eat the hell out of whatever, not whatever foods you want, but whatever foods that you have set up for your nutritional plan. And I think the foods that he mentioned are all dead on. You're not going to get yourself in a point. Now, keep in mind his activity level is probably quite a bit higher than most, especially because of the jiu-jitsu. But pull the jiu-jitsu out, and then maybe you would just pull out a little bit extra food, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you'd change out how lean the steak is. Maybe you'd change out the pork belly, or maybe you'd eat less carbs. You'd make some sort of movement somewhere. But you get the general idea of like, you got most of your stuff done for the day. It's 5, 6, 7 o'clock, whatever time it is for you. And you get to go home and like go to war with your food, and if you're eating 2 meals, you're eating at 8 and then probably eating again at like 10.
Yeah.
So it's like probably takes you from 8 to like 8:30 to eat. And then it's like, you got an hour break and you're cooking again. You're eating again. So again, it's like, I think it's really important that people have something to look forward to, especially when it comes to the nutrition. Because how the hell are you going to stay on that plan? Maybe for some of you listening to this today, maybe it looks like that you're going to have a cheat meal here or there, but like the cheat meal thing can just be a really slippery slope. If you have awesome food in your diet already, you just don't care about a cheat meal as much.
Yeah.
You really don't care as much. One thing that we never address on this show, because we very rarely talk about it, most of us, we don't really drink that much. We don't have drinks all that often. Do you have drinks here and there?
I had a beer last night.
What?
But like that's the thing.
This is the way we find out, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm really surprised.
No, it's funny you mentioned that. No, but the thing is like,
No.
before I had that beer last night, I was going with my girl. I was like, you know what? Shoot, I want a beer tonight. But it was like what, maybe 2 or like a week and a half since I had another beer or something like that. So I don't drink often, but sometimes like last night I was like, it's been a while since I've had a beer. You get a beer at this meal. That's pretty much it. But I would say like there are people like Alberto. Alberto loves his beer and his IPAs. Like he's a beer connoisseur. Like I think he'll have almost a beer, maybe almost every single day, but he's in really, really good shape because he knows how to handle that with his food. So I do think that there is a way to handle those waters in a healthy fashion. But like I just don't do it that often where like it matters.
I would say that like getting drunk probably doesn't really fit into a nutrition plan all that well.
I haven't been drunk in a long time.
Yeah, like getting like, shit. Maybe, maybe I can think of like.
I think I was there.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
at the Arnold with each other.
But like maybe I can think of a scenario where it fits in to get pretty drunk, like once a month or once every, like there's really not a lot of room to be like really pounding a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
What I would suggest that if you do like to drink is that you try to set it up for like a specific day or days. But I would treat it like the snack. I'd have it at the end of the day, have 1 or 2 and try to get your ass over it. There's just not going to be a lot of like junk stuff that's ever going to be part of any nutritional plan.
Yeah.
And alcohol, unfortunately, it's a poison to your body, and it's something that your body doesn't even want to deal with anything else that's going on in your body at the moment. It wants to metabolize the alcohol. So your body's like, hey, like, let's hold off on that fat burning that we're going to do. Let's hold off on all these other activities because we have to figure out like what this substance is that's in us that's making us laugh and making us act silly right now. So those are just some things to think about. And I would say, like, if you're trying to make some room for it, I drink here and there with my wife. I try not to drink all that often. I would say the amount of drinks I have in a month, maybe 3, something like that.
Yeah.
It could be as high as 4. It could be as low as like 2. You know, it just kind of depends on what season it is. But I also take Mind Bullet too, which sometimes helps me when we get these weird situations where you're surrounded by a lot of family members and you don't really you're not sure how you're going to deal with them without alcohol. So I sometimes will reach for that. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Or use the Mind Bullet potion, which has been hitting your boy for the past 3 hours. This is good stuff,
God.
man.
Yeah,
We're going to podcast all day.
Yeah,
Oh
we could.
my God.
We could.
just hit that mind bullet potion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mindbullet.com. We got some shit to hit up right here. We got some white strong sleeves coming out in like mid-September. Those look awesome. They're knee sleeves and elbow sleeves. We're also tying in a special with that as well. So look to all that coming soon. Follow along on MB Slingshot on Instagram. And then also, this is something that we just shifted to more recently. We recognize that a lot of our international shipping orders, people have been complaining for a very, very long time. And so we wanted to remedy that. We wanted to cut back on the shipping rates. The shipping rates would average $35, sometimes even $40, which is just like, man, when you look at that total, you're getting off that website, right? You're not ordering shit, right? So we have $15 flat rate shipping to anywhere in the world, and it's also $5 flat rate shipping domestic. And in addition to that, if you spend over $100, you get free shipping to U.S. and Canada. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully we get to more people all over the world. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Oh, wait, there's a meet too, right? September. Did we have the day on that? Sunday, September
10th?
September.
I don't have the date.
Oh, wait. Let me look at my phone.
You won't?
My phone will tell me. Hold on.
And then also the Ed Cohn shirts.
Oh, yeah.
Cone shirt.
I don't
Yeah.
know when Ed Cohn shirts are dropping,
I
though, do
believe
you?
that's Thursday.
We need to gather more information.
I thought we just had this.
We don't even know. I don't even know.
IOENO.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Okay, September. Probably September 8th. Probably Sunday, September 8th. Because
That's the day after my birthday.
the meets aren't on set. Your birthday's September 7th?
September 7th, 1992.
Damn.
Fell on Labor Day that year.
Damn. My little Quinny, her birthday's on the 6th.
Really?
Oh, I didn't
We
even
were
mention.
so close.
I know. I didn't even mention this on the podcast, but this is a whole nother podcast. I'm alone for the next 10 days.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. The wifey is out of town. The wifey went to Greece. I think she went with her boyfriend, but she said she's going with a bunch of girlfriends. But
Oh, you guys just went to Italy.
yeah.
Okay, not okay. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Man,
Mm-hmm.
poor Marky Moo.
I know. I think I'm just going to eat In-N-Out burger the whole time she's gone.
Welcome to my life.
You like that plan?
In and out, yeah, all day.
In and out.
And then the
But
Ed,
I don't know. But I don't know what to do with my kids. I'm all by myself.
Wait,
I'm like-
she just went to Greece and it's you and the kids?
oh man.
Yeah, the kids just started school and everything. I gotta
Oh, it's
gonna
gonna
drop
be
them
fun.
off and pick them up and all that stuff.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Ed Cohn shirts this Thursday. Yeah, the 29th.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Look for that as well on markbellslingshot.com. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you guys later.